one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us please flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
We have a roll call.
Councilman Morris,
Here.
Councilman Curtis,
Here.
Councilman Hoffman,
Here.
Councilman Risen, here, Mayor
Here.
Pro Tem.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Do we have any public comments?
Yes. We have one. Oh. We have two. Mayor.
Don Johnson, can you step up to the podium?
Great, thank you very much. Can you hear me through my mask?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just making sure. My name is Don Johnson, and I've come to talk about what is usually a very mundane task, an appointment to the Subsidence District Board. What makes this different is that it started 2 years ago when a Galveston County official decided to turn this appointment into a political vendetta against my family. And where he was committed to demonstrating his political power over a majority of mayors in Galveston County. His demand was for the cities to appoint an unqualified campaign worker with a police record and no suitable experience or background to the Subsidence District Board. Obviously, he wanted to send a message that he could unseat a qualified board member with a completely unqualified campaign worker. In some cases, it turned out to be a very surprising message where one mayor ignored a unanimous vote of council for me and instead sent a letter of support for the campaign worker. At first I thought the mayor had just made a mistake until I discovered his engineering company had just been awarded a lucrative contract by the county. What can you say about that sequence of events? Here I must comment, while the mayor got his contract, he lost his job as mayor at the very next election. And by the way, Mayor Spicer didn't get caught up in any of this. So, just that you know, that's why I've always loved Jamaica Beach, because y'all are kind of above a bunch of that stuff that goes on in the county. Anyway, it was not just this board appointment that the county official was interested in controlling. He had a larger goal in mind. The message he wanted to send my family was that my wife should not run for re-election. Of course, coercing a few mayors into voting for his campaign worker was a far different issue from defeating a longtime fiscal conservative at the polls. Someone that has been a proponent for taxpayers for the last 16 years. My wife won re-election by almost a 2-to-1 margin, and the county official with the vendetta has been rather quiet since then. So now I'm back to address the appointment of the unqualified campaign worker. The appointment process was so ugly 2 years ago that I could not allow the campaign worker to just slide by with a reappointment as an incumbent. As reported in the Daily News, the campaign worker has faced drug charges, weapons charges, and evading arrest. More recently, he was arrested late one night after the League City Music Festival when he flipped an ATV while doing donuts in a grassy area. A young lady's leg was broken in this senseless accident. According to the police complaint, he refused to take a field sobriety test or to submit to a blood draw. As said by others before, these events show a pattern of behavior and poor judgment. I would ask, does this sound like the type of person Jamaica Beach wants to hold up as a representative of their city? I've never faced charges like these and doubt anyone on council has either. Undoubtedly, the county official promoting this campaign worker was amused to see all of my experience, 8 years on the Subsidence District, years on the Clear Lake City Water Authority Board, time on the Army Corps Clear Creek Reevaluation Review Project, and other flood control projects that I've been associated with, discounted by the mayors that came to support this unqualified campaign worker. I hope now is the time to put everything back into perspective and set aside politics. Experience should count, and the best qualified people should be appointed to the boards. And before I close, it should be noted the county has 3 positions on the Subsidence District Board. They could have appointed a campaign worker at any time to any one of those positions. However, I rather doubt a majority of commissioners would have approved an individual like this. I'm asking council to reconsider the Subsidence District appointment and not vote for Jason Long. I certainly appreciate that you give me time to speak here this evening and do appreciate your consideration.
Well, thank you, but I'm not sure that we can discuss it at this point.
Right, it's
But
not on the
it's
agenda, you
something
probably
to
can't
think
discuss
about.
it
I
tonight.
appreciate it, bring it to our attention. Ginger Jones, please.
Ginger Jones, 16612 Curlew. I'm back here again about the golf carts. I'm a bit confused because I thought we were looking at either lowering the speed limit or requiring license plates. And in reading it on the agenda here, it sounds like you're requiring both. So that's my comment. I'm just confused as to what you're actually planning to do.
Okay, thank you. We're going to the public hearing. The purpose of this public hearing is to receive input from the public, either oral or written, regarding replat of lots 95 and 96 of Jamaica Beach, section 23, into one lot, being lot R96 of Jamaica Beach, section 23, commonly known as 16704 Cormorant Road. Do we have any input? And do we have any discussion in council?
We'll discuss that,
When it comes up?
when you come to the agenda item. This is just for the public hearing.
The property owners want here? Okay.
Okay, there being no, input, we will come out of public hearing and go into the regular meeting. The approval of the minutes of the regular city council meeting, November 6th, 2020,
16th.
and December 7th, pardon? 16th, 2020, and December 7th, 2020. Do I have a motion for that?
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as reported on November 16th, 2020, and December 7th, 2020.
A second.
All in favor? Or is there anyone against? Okay, moving on to the irregular agenda. Is discuss the possible action of approval on a replat of lots 95 and 96 of Jamaica Beach, section 23, into one lot, being lot R96 of Jamaica Beach, section 23, commonly known as 16704 Cormorant Road. And I assume that P and Z has looked at this.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, the November 17th B and Z committee met and discussed this. There were no objections to it, and it had a approval of 4 committee members.
Is there any other discussion?
I went and visited the property today. They've actually started improving the property. It's got a new bulkhead there. It looks like they're outlaying for a pool. I don't see any problems at all. Looks good.
So do we have a motion to that effect?
I will go ahead and make a motion to approve it as stated.
I'll second.
If there's no one opposing, it will pass. Discuss and possible action to adopt an ordinance of the city of Jamaica Beach, Texas, amending the adopted golf cart and other slow-moving vehicle regulations in accordance with the requirements for passenger vehicles as stated in the State of Texas Transportation Code, providing for additional City of Jamaica Beach requirements deemed necessary to promote the health, safety, and welfare of the public, providing for the repeal of all or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. Do we have any discussion?
Councilperson Rizzo asked, us to try to reach out to the public and the best means necessary to try to get a little bit of the input from the citizens here. We did send out a Facebook poll, concerning the topic. The question, asked anyone taking the poll is, would you rather pay the $14.95 and get license plates for the golf course, or the other option that the city has that you have to discuss tonight and decide on is to drop the city speed limit to 25 miles an hour. One or the other would have to happen by law. The results of that was there were 287 responses. There were 150 votes to actually register or get license plates for the golf course, which showed 52.3%. And there were 137 votes that were cast to lower the speed limit, which represents 47.7%. And I provided you a copy with the poll results from Facebook.
I'd like to add on, discuss this further. Though I don't agree with any of it, I'd like to keep it the way it was, but we don't have no choice. We must look at it as almost like a luxury tax. A tax on alcohol, toll road, tobacco, or anything else. One side of me says fine, pay it without any, without punishing the other citizens who don't have a golf cart. You know, with reducing the speed limit to 25 miles an hour, that, you know, everybody has to go through that then. Anyone that has a golf cart should already be insured, and I think, and I'm sure we're gonna be discussing this in a minute, I think we already have an ordinance for that. You know, you're taking a big gamble if you don't, you know, financially, both in liability and collision wise. But my biggest concerns is, you know, we will have there will be a cost that's spread out among everyone that even doesn't have a golf cart, of replacing materials, labor, signs. The benefit of getting this registration is you're able to track who it belongs to. You know, not long ago, we had a theft of 4 or 5 golf carts. Most of them, we couldn't even figure out who they belonged to until it got out on Facebook. And thanks Ms. Taz for getting a lot of that out and getting them ID'd, and our police department making this happen. You know, it's been a struggle, and I'm looking for more input, but that's my 2 cents on it. Let me see, and then I'd like to discuss more when we get to this about the whole ordinance in general. I do have some things to discuss about that.
It's over for discussion right now.
I was a little confused, like Ginger said, because they're both in these few pages, both lowering
It's one
the
or the other.
speed.
Yeah, it is one or the other.
Sorry for the confusion.
Yeah.
Written in here, it's one or the other? Written in here, it's both. Right?
Written in the ordinance, the new ordinance.
Number L references 25 miles an hour, number N references 25 miles an hour. Number O
That's.
registration.
That's the type of vehicle it is, that they can only do 25 miles
Yeah,
an hour.
that's not lowering the speed limit, that's the type of vehicle, it doesn't exceed,
Yeah.
manufacturer doesn't exceed 25 miles an hour from the manufacturer.
That is the slow moving vehicle clause with the orange placard.
Right.
That's what that's referencing to.
And, Councilman Morris, there, in our ordinance, when it calls for all golf carts or slow moving vehicles have to have insurance, as provided the traffic, code. That is referencing, that is basically a hold harmless statement made by the city, referencing if the state ever required those vehicles to have insurance, then we don't have to change that ordinance. There is an exception, in the traffic code to golf carts, and off-road vehicles to where they are not required to have insurance, even though it is a wise thing to have them. But, this ordinance does not require them to do it, it just says if the state ever requires them to do it, then we would require them to do it by the ordinance.
So explain L to me, sir. What's an altered golf cart?
That means somebody that's, gone in there and souped it up, jazzed it up.
They
or
take
something.
their
Will
speed
go
limiter
fast.
off of it, so they can go
Yeah,
fast.
it takes the governor off,
Take the governor off.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
D, I had noticed D talks about the emblem, slow moving emblem.
Right.
I see very few with that. Is that one of those hold harmless, like?
Oh, no, that's, we enforce that.
Okay.
If we see it.
The
they-
orange
they're stopped.
triangle? The
Yeah.
orange triangle.
We make them cease and desist operation until they have it on, or we get a citation.
I think what happens is because where they're placed, people put their coolers in front of them, like that's where our cooler compartment is, so it's super easy just to cover it up. I think that for the most part.
But somewhere in here, it says something about a rear view mirror on the driver's side,
It just has to have a rear view mirror.
but
so
I'm
we don't-
presuming the bar will be
In- in-
sufficient.
Yeah, that is okay, it says
Minimum.
that. Yeah. The other issue that I saw was, I'd like for us to discuss about trailers. You know, I don't see any problem with somebody hauling their goods from their house to the beach. I mean, that's something I'd like for us to discuss.
Well, they could, if they take their trailer back home after they offload all their stuff.
Yeah.
And that will be discussed in the beach access plan as well.
Okay.
In more detail.
And then it was talking about, technically, a golf cart is supposed to turn into a street to move out of the way of a moving vehicle.
Or to the side of the road.
Okay, yeah, because I was gonna say, well, that creates its own issue with them having to back into traffic and then go forward.
They're supposed to yield to
Yield.
the vehicle trying to pass
Okay.
them. is what it is.
Okay. Yeah.
They can't really pull over because of our curbs.
Well,
That's the
that's
only
only
place you
Buccaneer.
can go. is-
Yeah.
I kind of thought the first time we talked about it, that there wasn't that much of a benefit for the registration. But seeing the poll, I mean, we're here to represent the people and the people voted fairly
Well,
to
if-
go,
if,
I mean, it's really close, but.
And do you have anything to add to that as far as for public safety and?
Well, there are a couple of things. If they are registered with license plate, then it's a lot easier to protect as far as preventing it from theft. Right now, thieves know that they can get in a golf cart and there's no way to link it to them. So in the process of the theft, it's a lot easier for them to do so.
You don't think that they would just take them off?
Well, they can take it off, but still, it still has a VIN number that's also attached,
Yeah.
that we can identify the owner, say we stop somebody that looks
Yeah.
suspicious, we'll know right off.
Doesn't have
that-
the plates.
that-
There's
that-
some
that
reason.
They're not the owner.
Yeah.
My turn.
Yes, sir.
This is state mandated, it's a law. If we don't.
We have to do one or the other.
Okay, so we can't just sit idle, we basically, as a city, breaking the law. Second point is insurance. I found out today that it is not mandated that we carry insurance on our golf carts. I think that's something that needs to be looked into. I've seen several bad golf cart accidents, heard about much worse. I think that needs to be revisited. Three, I went today, I did 2 different vehicles, and
I made it as hard as possible. I did somebody else's that wasn't in my name without a title, and I did a UTV. Took me 30 minutes, it was simple, they talked us over it on the phone. This is not a big deal. This is $14.75, one-time use. You don't have to do it again unless you buy a new one or sell it. This is a no-brainer, guys, my opinion.
I just wanna do both. How about that?
That's all for me.
I don't think regarding the insurance, that's kind of a personal right or choice or whatever, just like if you pay cash for your house and you don't want to carry insurance.
Your
Nobody
house
can
is
make you.
driving down the street, possibly causing harm to another individual.
But I don't think you would ever, that would ever fly, put it that way, because that's a personal choice. If you choose to be reckless, you choose to be reckless.
Yeah, but if my grandson gets hit by somebody that doesn't have it,
Well, still.
somebody's gonna pay for it. And if they don't have any
It's
money,
part of your homeowner.
yeah, if they don't have any money, it's a rental person, and they don't have any insurance, and they don't have anything, then my kid could be handicapped for the rest of their life,
Yeah,
and
the
there's
person
no.
renting the house might have an
Yeah.
issue too.
Can we discuss that at another time if we
Yes,
wanna?
yes, yes.
No, if
Do
we
we
wanna
have a motion?
do a golf cart with these running trailers and insurance, we might as well all go together.
Yeah.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to go ahead and adopt the ordinance as stated.
Which is all of these pages?
All of them. As it has been rewritten.
Yeah, not the cross-through part.
Whoops, my page 13 went somewhere else.
I will second that motion.
We've, if it doesn't get a second, it dies.
We seconded it.
You seconded it.
Oh, you
Yeah.
seconded it, okay.
You're ready to call for a vote if you want to.
Yes, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So unanimous. Okay,
I will, get this, printed up and, assign the number, and I'll have Mayor Spencer sign it, and, we'll put it in the newspaper. Post it in the newspaper.
Effective immediately means,
It's effective immediately, as soon as they voted.
okay, so somebody else is gonna go to the courthouse and get my license for me during the day? I mean, do we have
We-
like the end of the month or
We-
something like that?
The police will be very understanding as far as enforcement.
Do we need to go back and change the motion and have a grace period?
That's what I'm thinking.
Well, legally, you really can't do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I didn't think of it earlier.
Ginger, did you have a question?
Well, that was my question is, when was what she asked?
Tomorrow, if we see you driving.
No golf carts.
Moving right along.
There's two forms that are online that you can download. If you Google them, if you call and ask, I can tell you the form names, they're very easy. You download them, fill them out. You call the county tax office, ask for motor vehicles, and they'll tell you exactly what lines you need to fill. You don't have to fill out the whole form, just certain sections. Just fill them out, bring them there, walk in, pay your $14.75 or $95, and you're in and out 5-10 minutes. It's very simple.
And where do you go to get this form?
You can go on Google and download them, or I'll make copies and keep them up here in City Hall.
TexasGMV.org.
We can get this after the meeting. Number 3, discuss the possible action to consider a beach access vehicle control plan. Pardon? Discuss, did we hear that?
Yep.
Do we have any discussion on that?
Always.
Chief?
If you don't mind, just for a minute, I provided in your packets the revised, plan as proposed. Basically, if you all remember in August, we're about to vote on this issue. We got a verbal and written approval from the GLO, with the original plan that was submitted. The only difference in this plan and the one that was submitted is under point 8, and thank you, Russell, for, pointing out that we had the old revision, so it's changed. We will not be numbering any specific parking spots from the vehicles that we park perpendicular to the dunes. The dunes are, when there is dunes again, they will be protected by bollards and ship rope. So the vehicles physically would have to run over the ship rope to actually get into that dune zone area. There would be a safe unloading and turnaround zone that is gonna be in basically the front of Beachcomber. So your pedestrian beach, pedestrian beach is in front of Beachcomber, in front of Boardwalk. You'll have a safe turnaround and unloading zone, basically for golf course or whoever that's driving up to pedestrian beach. And then there is a larger vehicle turnaround zone, between the last designated parking spot and about 70 feet before you get to that, unloading zone. So, if we did this roughly on average, we would have 40 vehicle parking spaces above the required 111 by GLO, which would give us about 151 parking spaces. Depending on the way people park and the size of their vehicles, obviously, would be, you could get more or less than that. Outside of that, when you decide, looking over this plan, any revisions that you want to do, we will take down those revisions. They may or may not need to go to GLO. The next step of this process would be, if you approve a plan tonight, then the next city council meeting, we can come up with a fitting ordinance to accommodate that plan, which would need to go to GLO for approval of that plan.
I have a couple things to add to this. You know, we have a crude drawing up there. It's, kind of gives everyone an idea, more or less in the dimensions. Also, we'd like to see about increasing the trash cans. And there'll be some type of order to that. And then I'd like to discuss about, hiring out someone to dump the trash cans at least one time during busy weekends, and during the holiday weekends, have it done at least twice during those times. And then the monitoring, the parking, were we still talking about doing something north-south? Some type of
Yes.
marking?
Well, it's vehicles would have to be perpendicular to the dune line, yes.
Oh, right, but are we gonna actually mark that? Or-
It would be signage, professional signage saying must park perpendicular to the dune line, and we would have obviously law enforcement there to, assist in the education process if anyone that doesn't understand that.
And you find this to be a lot more easier to patrol?
It would do a lot of things. First off, it's gonna clean up the beach a lot. The number one thing is, and also part of this, if you, my favorite, parts of this is you can't park within 25 feet of the water line, which means there's no more double and triple parking of cars. There's no more congregations of a massive amount of people parked chaotic with tables and, tarps and barbecue pits and all. So it's gonna be a lot more clean, a lot more safe. You will be naturally probably restricting, 2/3 of the vehicular traffic we have on the beach now, which will help actually the environmental aspects of the beach, and it would limit the crowding, which limits the troubles, which limits the littering, which limits everything else. It would be a lot easier to police this way as well.
So as they're coming in and then going west, and there's no parking, they go down to the turnaround, come back, still no parking, then they would leave.
They would leave, if they tried to park near the water line at that time, they would be, welcomed by one of our police officers working patrol. We are gonna, basically double or triple the amount of patrols on the beaches.
The question I had, or the issue I had in November, was the size of the pedestrian beach. Do we need 550 feet for a turnaround? Because that's what.
It would be to our advantage to have it, because,
Who's on the beach where the turnaround is?
who is on the beach?
Mhm.
Well, there's gonna be police there. There's
No, I mean on the beach.
Who's
Like
on?
if I'm a pedestrian and I've got a couple of kids, can I be on the beach where the turnaround is?
Well, yes, you can, but we're not restricting where you can be, obviously by.
But you could get
by-
run over.
You could, yes, but you.
Well, you get run over now.
You
get run
you
over
would,
now.
you would very visibly see that cars are turning around in that zone. The great aspect about this is you're doubling the size of a pedestrian beach without being an actual pedestrian beach.
It's the
Right.
same size it was in November.
The pedestrian beach is, yes.
Right.
Right here. But here, you will have basically no parking allowed,
Right.
because this is a safe
That's
unloading.
the turnaround spot.
Unloading zone, no,
Unloading.
here's the turnaround zone, it's right before you get to here. And so if you take a boardwalk and go about 70 feet east, then that is your safe turnaround.
Okay, so your unloading zone, pedestrians could be on that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
And if there's bad traffic, if the traffic is heavy, through general public safety, we can go ahead and restrict nothing but golf courts and such to enter in there.
And then turn
No more large vehicles to turn around and unload in there.
Okay,
Once
I
it
did
gets,
not realize
once it
that.
gets crowded, and this will prevent a lot of the bad bottlenecking that we used to,
Okay.
what we used to have.
That should take care of the things that I've heard regarding the size of the pedestrian beach then.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Can we just have, instead of those 146, can we just give them right at 111? You know, I'm gonna fight for every foot of beach there.
Well, the problem with that, and that would actually, I think, everybody involved here would like to see that as well. The problem is, if you divide the beach in half, there's no way that we're gonna be able to allow golf courts in there. The citizens are gonna be very upset about that, because you got a big.
Oh, cause that makes it very black and white.
Right.
I got it, I'm back to that, okay. It's been too long since we talked
Yeah, it was August last year.
What's happening?
about it.
So the golf carts park in any eligible spot, just like a car.
The golf course can park on the water side, so we're not gonna.
Oh, they can? Oh, okay. I missed that.
Golf course don't run over too many people on the beach, so they're really not a safety.
Survive it.
Yeah, hopefully up to this point they haven't.
Is that on here?
I-
The golf carts can park on the south side?
No.
It's not on here?
No.
Okay, I just thought maybe I missed it. Okay.
And is the speed limit's 5 or 10?
10.
10.
Okay.
It's on the signs at the beginning of the beach.
Okay.
For the trash cans, I don't think we need more. I think it looks ugly as heck the way that we have that many. If we can have a more organized pickup or a higher pickup, I'm not going to unload trash anymore, sorry. If we can do that, and I think a few of our trash can holders did take a beating from our storms this fall. Get those all up to snuff, maybe if the public wants to like paint them and make them look, you know, beachy, something like that. I'm all game for that. I just don't think we need more trash cans if we can empty them.
And with a larger dumpster this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that won't fill up.
Yeah.
We had the trial,
Yeah.
it was last year or was it the year before?
It was Labor Day.
That we had the dumpster by the gate.
Right.
What was our decision regarding that will work?
It worked a lot better.
It just
Yeah.
needed to be done more often, okay.
Yeah, the public loved the way that was run that weekend.
My turn. All right, I want everybody to please take note, the red markings are gonna be the new piling locations. So everybody is aware of that, and if that's your home right in front of the pilings, we're sorry. We've done our due diligence, we've worked very hard trying to appease everybody the best we could. This had a lot of ins and outs in it, and we're doing the best we can with what we have. The trash cans, I think less is more. I really, really do. The beach is a mess. It really is. We gotta get on this before the season starts. This year, I feel as though we really need to set precedents. We gotta get the beach looking better and functioning better, get the police presence out there, and maybe we'll start getting control of this monster, because it has gotten away from us. We have to do something. This isn't about trash cans, this isn't about signage, this is about a plan to get to the GLO so we can start moving forward. We've been dealing with this for well over a year. We've gotta start somewhere, and we can always come back, change it a little bit. This does not lock us in with the GLO. This still leaves us open. It's a good plan, and I really appreciate Brad and Clay for how much effort you put in this, a lot of hard work. That's it, the audience has questions.
To the effect is, I think this is a good foundation to expand on for the greater good of the community going forward.
It's a good starting point.
It's a good place to start.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to permit later and everything else when you have this kind of plan in place already.
Order, good order.
Yes, sir. State your name, address, please.
Joe Kapleski, 16542 Tampico. Has there been any thought about putting porta-johns in there? Because I haven't did last year, but 2 previous years, I've been down here 3.5 years, and there's been a lot of human waste around. And with today, with the fact of hygiene and situations that are occurring with virus, I was wondering if there'd be any thought about the fact of getting some porta-johns in there.
It's been discussed.
It's been discussed.
Thank you.
What's the yays and nays to that? Marcy?
Nays.
Solid, no.
I'm sorry.
The homeowners went irate,
They circle the wagons.
yeah. The
Again,
smell, the,
right, with this plan though, that would be one of those things you could easily run a pilot program on, bringing in, and I don't believe in the individual porta-johns either. There's-
like the trailer.
But bring in an actual trailer for the weekend only and let it, have it go out. And this is again, another way you can pilot a bunch of different options because there's a plan in place. I also believe that a lot of the problems that we had with the overcrowding will be naturally solved because we won't have the overcrowding anymore. There's only X amount of vehicles that will be able to park on our beach, and then when those places are full, they have to go to another beach.
But excuse me.
Yes.
Porta cans were brought out when we were talking about charging to go on the beach, because you have to provide them if you charge. And they were vehemently against them. How many policemen are on the beach on a typical high season?
This year, for the first time, because if this plan goes into effect, we're actually gonna assign, and John, you can speak to this if you'd like, we're gonna assign police officers zones, and they're gonna rotate during the day, and we're gonna have 4 or 5 officers there on Saturdays, and 3 to 4 on Sundays, especially at the first of this until everybody gets used to it.
A couple during the week, summer week.
I'm researching a grant opportunity now to get a couple of extra UTVs.
Yeah, I
for
saw
police
something
patrols.
on here too.
if you have more eyes in the zones, that makes sense that you would be able to have better oversight of your zone, and hopefully we won't have that issue with the human waste in the dunes.
Right.
I'm gonna put more snakes out there so people can the rear ends. They'll learn.
Do we have a motion from anyone?
Ginger.
Another question.
Ginger?
Oh, ignorant. I have 3 questions. One, why are we putting more parking places than we have to have?
Because logically it works. and any option outside of that, it doesn't work.
That's what I asked him initially, was about why we don't go back to the 111. And it doesn't give us the lovely turnaround and unloading zones. So
Okay.
basically, it's kind of giving us a secret golf cart zone.
Okay, if you say so. Also, the pedestrian area, is that where we can go with our golf cart and stop?
ADA golf courts, that's a good, great question, if you don't mind. ADA golf courts and pedestrians only go in here.
Okay,
Any golf courts can go into this section, but ADA and only pedestrians can go here.
what's the two difference? That's pedestrian, what's the one on the right?
This is just the unloading
Oh,
zone.
the unloading, okay. Okay, and has there been, or is there going to be any kind of public meeting if other people have questions or input on it?
We've had several public meetings on this.
Oh,
And honestly, we've been working this for going on 2 years now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
We had one in the fire station last fall.
We had a major meeting at the fire station
Last
last
fall?
The minutes are online for it, if you want to hear everybody's comments.
It was,
Okay, well, that's just my three
It was very
questions,
long.
thank you.
Oh, I didn't give you
So,
my
was there a motion? I'm sorry.
Pardon?
I'll make a motion.
I have one more comment.
Okay.
On the tail, just to make sure that I'm clear, because on the tail of this, then our beach renourishment plan, we have to go through with that next, right?
yes.
And we'll give
Right
a
now,
deadline for that?
We are actually working on that right
Yeah.
now. What the holdup on this one, I had a conference call with, GLO on this 2 weeks ago. And the status of that is, it's still sitting with, the Corps of Engineers for approval, and it could be sitting there for almost a year.
Sounds about right.
I didn't realize you had to have a permit to allow Christmas trees to help refurbish the dune, because one of our citizens went through all of that process
Right, it's
and was
permanent.
able to get a bunch of trees.
We have a motion.
I'll make a motion for regular agenda item number 3, as stated, the discussion and possible action to consider a beach access vehicle control plan.
As
Removing number 8. Well, not number 8.
That was already revised, it's
Oh.
revised in your copy.
crossing out the
I'd
and.
like to second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's not revised.
It's still in there, taking the numbers out.
Okay, as long as you revise it, I trust you. Aye.
That passes unanimously.
Got it?
Discuss the possible action to appoint a candidate to the vacant position on the planning and zoning. I think it's 2.
I just done some.
The very last 2 pages,
Yep,
21 and
page
22. 21 and 22.
21 and 22 are the,
Y'all can decide to, do this in open forum, or you can decide to do this in closed forum and move into executive session.
Yeah, I think Brad said they'd be introduced now and then we'd go to executive
if
session.
you care to.
I like that.
Yeah.
Can I, get a motion to go into
You
executive
want to
session?
introduce them?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session. Alderman Moore.
That would just bring it.
To discuss
second.
the appointment.
To discuss the appointment.
Anybody?
Any other discussion?
Do we have a second?
Yes, Hoffman.
I got you.
And all in favor? We're going to executive session real quick.
It's 6:46.
Real quick.
Oh, I just realized that too.
I looked down and I was like,
Oh.
this is the room right
And if, we need to clear the room, we can call everybody back in after this, if we have any.
And we'll do one